In today's video, we have the latest rumors on some trades possibly involving Mark Giordano heading back to the Flames. Could John Klingberg end up with Boston or the Islanders? Plus, Evander Kane's a free agent. Where is he heading? It sounds an awful lot like the Edmonton Oilers. Plus, we have big news out of Detroit on a front office hiring. We have news from the NHL waiver wire, some signings including Tuuka, Rask, and a whole lot more. All that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a variety of NHL news and rumors to discuss today. Let's start with the waiver wire news. We had a claim today. The Anaheim Ducks actually claimed forward Lucas Alvins, who was on unconditional waivers for the purpose of contract termination, which he had mutually agreed upon with the Vegas Golden Knights, but Anaheim claimed him, and it's something you almost never see, because once that happens, the player becomes a free agent. You don't usually see a team making a claim, but when a player's on, like an entry-level contract or a league minimum deal, sometimes I guess it could happen, but it's just kind of surprising in a sense. So obviously Anaheim can give him a chance in the NHL, maybe convince him to stay. They could also let him go back to Sweden, which was the rumored destination he was heading for, and they could retain his rights for a while to come back later. So we'll see what happens, but certainly an unconventional situation there with the news on the waiver wire. We also had news that the Minnesota Wild have placed Rem Pitlick on waivers as well. So we'll see if he's claimed. They'll have until 2 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow to find out. Dallas Stars head coach Rick Bowness has been fined $25,000 the other day after they lost against the St. Louis Blues in the final minute, with the Blues coming back and scoring 2 power play goals. Bowness was really ticked off at the referees, was slamming a hockey stick against the boards and had a major outburst, which the NHL fined him for. Not surprising. Whenever we see coaches go off like that, it typically always does wind up in a fine, but I think he had a lot of reason to be mad. The penalties that were called, I think, were justified, but there was a really bad blown call on Stars defenseman Miro Heiskanen, who was hauled down trying to clear the puck, and then later himself took the second penalty, which caused the additional power play that caused the Blues to win the game. So ultimately, it was a bad missed call on the referee's part, and in that sense, Blues get the game, and Dallas Stars lose in dramatic fashion in the final minute like that. He was ticked, but he gets a fine for his efforts there. Big news out of Detroit today. Steve Yzerman has announced that he's bringing back one of the all-time greats and former defenseman, and one of the great defensemen of his generation and of all time, Niklas Lidstrom, is returning to work with the Red Wings as a vice president of hockey operations. He says it's something that he's been thinking about and talking about for some time. Apparently he's going to be working a lot with the defense and the D prospects and things like that. So certainly nobody better to learn from in Detroit, and obviously having one of the all-time greats and longtime captain there. That's just a super great move by Detroit. An absolute outstanding player, outstanding person, and outstanding hockey mind to add to the organization. Tremendous news there. For the Red Wings, we had a signing in Minnesota. They've extended defenseman John Merrill, who signed a 1-year deal, but then of course they've been quite pleased enough to give him a 3-year extension at $1.2 million per season. So not a huge signing, but still, an extension for the defenseman there. And of course, we also finally got the official contract for Tuuka Rask. We get word this morning that he was released from his American Hockey League tryout with the Providence Bruins, and then that, of course, that led to the official NHL contract coming with Boston shortly after. So it's a 1-year contract for $1 million. So he wasn't kidding when he said this absolutely had nothing to do with money, that he would play for cheap. He didn't care about that anymore. He made his money. He just loves the game and wants to continue to play and hopefully have a chance to chase the Stanley Cup. So obviously the Bruins have been doing much better as of late. Not really sure at this point we can call them cup contenders, but certainly playoff contenders for sure, and will be a team to be reckoned with. They've got lots of veterans there that know how to win, and will be interesting to see if they make any additional moves. Of course, they did have to demote Jeremy Swayman to Providence. Don Sweeney said Swayman was a bit disappointed, but not overly disappointed, that he understood and was obviously professional about things. But Swayman certainly earned his keep and certainly deserves to stay. But with Rask coming in as the veteran who's given them lots of great hockey in the past, we'll see if this works out for them. Hopefully it does. If not, they have Swayman waiting in the wings. They can't put Swayman on the taxi squad because he's not eligible for that, so he'll go down and get some reps in Providence, and we'll see where the Bruins goaltending situation takes us, where it's a 1 year, $1 million deal, and he's only signing in January. He'll actually end up earning his take-home pay will be around $545,000. They did have to make some additional roster moves as well, demoting John Moore and young defenseman Urho Vakanainen to the AHL Providence Bruins as well. So the Bruins, with what they have here between Moore and Vakanainen going down and Swayman going down with the cheap contract here for Rask, they do have salary cap space. They could add another player. I think it's $1.1 million that they can add, or if they want to hold off and let that accumulate, they could certainly add a much bigger contract at the NHL trade deadline. So overall, the Bruins are in decent situation that way if they wanted to make an additional move or so. Now, when it comes to other guys coming back from injury, of course, Rask has been off all year, but if Malkin, who's also been off all year, makes his return tonight as the Pittsburgh Penguins do battle with the Anaheim Ducks, so we'll see how that goes. The Penguins have been red hot, and obviously winning a lot of games recently. He's really solidified himself in the standings. Be interesting to see the new dynamic of having Malkin jump in. And it's not always a situation where a good team gets even better when a superstar comes back. We've seen plenty of cases where sometimes it takes a while for the adjustment of having the extra guy in the lineup and getting his chemistry going and everything with his line mates and all that. So it'll be interesting to see how things go. Of course, Malkin is a pending UFA as well. So this is a big second half of the year for him to not only get back in action here and try to see if he can help the Penguins chase the Stanley Cup, but to determine his future and his contract and his value and all that here as well. Speaking of injured players, Jack Eichel makes this list as well today. A big update on him. He's finally joined his teammates in Vegas and was a participant in practice today. Now, of course, he had a no-contact jersey on, so he's a ways away from playing, but at least he's gone from training on his own, skating on his own, to joining the team. It's a big step in the right direction. Likely going to need probably at least a couple of more weeks anyways. Hard to say exactly, but I know one thing that's interesting, if you look at the Vegas schedule, as of right now, we've seen lots of games postponed, so anything can change here at any time, but they are scheduled to play the Buffalo Sabres right around February the 1st, I believe it is. So it'd be very interesting if his first game back after the surgery in Vegas was against his former team in Buffalo. Doesn't mean it's going to work out that way, but with the schedule the way it is certainly a possibility. So we'll see where things go in his recovery, but at least things are trending in the right direction, and he's doing well and should hopefully be able to play in the not too distant future. Now, on some other news that's not so good, the NHL has another lawsuit facing against it here, and this one certainly doesn't sound good at all. It has a lawsuit from two former off-ice officials who worked in the Tampa area with the Lightning, alleged that they were fired for reporting a colleague who was consistently using racist and sexually charged language for many, many years. So it was a long time situation. It wasn't something that was happened one time and they reported it or anything like that. It was somebody that they worked with that was, a regular occurrence for them by the sounds of things. And they eventually ended up submitting video proof in order to actually get their point across and have it taken more seriously, where that person was then fired. But it took a lot of complaints, a lot of situations, a lot of putting up with before that eventually took place. But then not long after, the ones who made the complaint and reported them, they were fired themselves, and it was somehow connected to an old group chat that they were connected to this person who they worked with and something, and the NHL wouldn't even give them apparently a copy of what was said and all that. So it's really doesn't sound good at all. And then, of course, this is being reported on by TSN's Rick Westhead, of course, who's been at the forefront of the Kyle Beach saga against the Chicago Blackhawks. And now we have this, and Katie Strang of The Athletic, the two top investigative journalists within the sports world and hockey world, who's been, integral parts of the Kyle Beach story and others like it around the Blackhawks scandal and, anything else we've seen that's been, not so great news of the NHL here in recent weeks and months and years, really. But they were told here as well that after the video evidence was submitted to the NHL, that the NHL lawyer actually advised for that video to be destroyed. So that's certainly not a good look either. Really hard to say where things go from here. I'm not sure exactly what they're, suing for in form of compensation, but it just looks bad. When you're trying to not only get racist and different types of behavior out of the game, and you see the HDA with their campaign that they're doing and everything that we've tried to do within the hockey world to try to improve the culture and remove stuff like that, and then you get more and more stories just like the HDA, the Hockey Diversity Alliance talking about their recent campaign about tape out hate, which we talked about a couple of videos back. They don't feel that the NHL is really doing enough either. And then you hear stories like this and lawsuits where it just goes to show you that they're not doing enough. They're not taking things seriously. And it's the whole sweep it under the rug type of approach. It just looks really, really bad. So in my opinion, change needs to happen. And it needs to happen at the top of the NHL before we're ever going to see any of this stuff really have a better effort at getting it out of the game. So I'm going to link a copy of the lawsuit in the pinned comment if you want to take a look through it. But certainly another bad look from that side of hockey. Now on to the trade and free agent rumors here for the day. Let's kick things off with Evander Kane, who's the new hot free agent on the market, which I don't really completely understand given his history, but there's a lot of interest, and there's a lot of people that are convinced that he's heading to the Edmonton Oilers. Now, Ken Holland did immediate availability today, which we mentioned in yesterday's video as well. Asked point blank by Jason Gregor about Kane, and basically he said he believes in second chances. He did not really skirt around it, made it pretty clear that they definitely have interest in Kane, and conversations have been going on with his agent Dan Milstein. So certainly the Oilers seem to be right at the forefront. And then, of course, like I said, we've got other NHL sources on Twitter and NHL Insider, TSN NHL Insiders as well tonight, saying how the Oilers are right at the forefront, that Kenny Holland has been hot on Evander Kane's trail since the news was official that he was, a free agent. We know the Oilers could certainly use Evander Kane, the player, but can they handle Evander Kane, the personality in the dressing room? And I know there are GMs out there with players in situations like this who really look at it strictly from the hockey side of things and say, we need the scoring, we can get this player cheap, we got to take the chance. And it can go either way. They could get, the leadership in the locker room could keep everything in check and really help him, and maybe it works out. And it could also do the opposite. If his new teammates don't receive him well, that's not going to help matters. Holland also seemed to make it clear based on his comments that his first-round pick and top prospects appear to be, off the table in any kind of trade talks right now. He seemed to lead everybody to think that Mike Smith is the goaltender who's going to help get them out of this mess, and that the players in the locker room that they have now or internally are what's going to help get out of this mess, that there's no real help coming except for maybe Kane, who's a free agent now. And it's just interesting. The other teams that are reportedly believed to be hot on Kane's trail and right at the forefront here, both the two teams in Florida, which are the Panthers and the Lightning, who were both two teams that were on his very limited 3-team no-trade list that the Sharks had given him as part of his former contract. So we'll be interested to see where this goes. There are some NHL sources who think that a signing could happen as early as tonight. Wouldn't even be shocking if the news breaks before I'm finished recording and get this up on YouTube. It's a possibility. If not, it can happen later tonight or even tomorrow. If not, 100% this week. There's enough interest in this player that he sounds like he's 100% getting an NHL contract, and he's 100% getting one in very short-term fashion. The NHL and Bill Daly have made it clear that there's no issues with him signing another deal elsewhere, even though he's filing a grievance against the Sharks, that essentially that is only going to be about money. He's not going back to San Jose, and we'll see if the Sharks end up paying him any money or not. Many believe that they will settle. Basically, the Sharks are probably going to be concerned that the arbitrator sides with Kane completely and awards the whole thing, and he's going to be concerned that they sign completely with the Sharks and he doesn't get anything. So it wouldn't be shocking if they somehow met in the middle and he takes, because it's just shy of $23 million that was owed on his contract. Maybe he accepts a $11-12 million settlement and they call it a day. That's a possibility. We'll see where that goes, but that's where things are at when it comes to Evander Kane. He very well might be an Edmonton Oiler as early as tonight, according to the latest rumors on the situation here. Now, when it comes to a couple other quick rumors here, Mark Giordano, could he go back to Calgary? I mean, the Flames are certainly in a situation where they very well could add on a blue line ahead of the deadline. That wouldn't be a shocker at all. There was a recent article with dailyfaceoff.com with his agent, actually, and talking about the fact that Giordano returning to the Flames wouldn't be a complete far-fetched idea. Obviously, things have not gone as planned in Seattle. I know I probably could have told Ron Francis myself that their expansion draft was terrible. Things did not look good from the get-go. There's a lot of good players that they passed up on, and they're near the bottom of the standings, and probably don't have a long-term future with somebody who would probably really love to win a Stanley Cup before they call it a day. Giordano's made it clear he's still in good shape, wants to continue playing. No desire to retire here right now, but he is in his late 30s. Hard to say how many productive years he has left. Could he go back to Calgary, where he had so much success for so long? We know that Daryl Sutter is a fan of Giordano. We know he likes the coach. He likes his teammates. He still has a house there. It would be a super easy transition, a player they're very familiar with. Why wouldn't they go after him instead of a player that they don't know? At least they know exactly what they're getting. They know who he can play with, where he fits. And it would just be as simple as pie to slide him right back into their lineup. So it makes a lot of sense. Now, the only other part of the conversation with his agent that was a little bit concerning for Flames fans, in my opinion, is that he also shares an agent with Andrew Mangiapane. Now, this is not a trade rumor of any kind, but Mangiapane is going to be needing a contract. He's a restricted free agent coming up this offseason. He's having a career season, just exploded again here with the goals this year. And it sounded like his agent basically said that he would recommend, even though he's had this big outburst, that he would take another one-year deal and then become a UFA and have a full view of the landscape, is what he said, of the whole NHL market to determine his future. So to me, you want to get this guy locked up long-term. The longer you wait, the more his price could go up, and the more risk you run of not keeping him, because one, his price goes too high, and number two, he has an ability to talk to other teams, and maybe somebody else overpays and steals him away from you. But it doesn't sound great when it comes to that and what the contract could look like. Maybe things will go in a different direction. Ultimately, it's Mangiapane making the final decision, not the agent. It's just a recommendation, but it sounds like he's going to be pushing for him to get a one-year deal and explore free agency. Now, the other player we want to talk about here quickly is John Klingberg, who, of course, in the last few days we've acknowledged has basically told Dallas that he wants a trade or will accept a trade out of Dallas. He's not going to be re-signing. The negotiations have hit a brick wall when it comes to trying to keep him in Dallas. And another article here from dailyfaceoff.com with Scott Burnside today is linking him to the top two teams going after him with interest would be the Islanders and the Boston Bruins. Now, the Bruins make a lot of sense. They could stand to add another defenseman, certainly. And, of course, his salary is not huge. When we get to the deadline, they should be able to make that work. Now, the Islanders, it only makes sense if they can get things turned around and they're going to be heading towards the playoffs. Why would they add a pending unrestricted free agent? We'll see where it goes with the Islanders season, but clearly they could go after him in free agency if that was, for the future. That would make more sense. The Islanders are far from being a playoff team, and if they have a lot of work to do to even be in a situation at the deadline to even consider that. So as much as it might make some sense, I don't know that it really does unless they pull together a massive string of wins and get themselves back in the playoff hunt, which is a big job and is not going to be easy and might almost be impossible. Only time will tell, but Boston certainly does make some sense as well. Apparently he's been linked there for a while, but there are certainly other teams in the mix. A right shot defenseman, 29 years old, who can put up 40, 50 points with some playoff experience. There's going to be plenty of teams lining up to get this guy. There'll be others as well, but those are the two teams mainly linked to him here at this time. So let me know your thoughts on everything discussed here today down in the comments, and we'll discuss further. If you're new to this channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the latest news, rumors, and analysis on all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.